Chris, it's been like 6 months. You know what that means?
No. What does it mean?
Yeah, that was really vague. I know. It's been like, I don't know, 6-ish months. I don't know. I'm not keeping exact track, but it's been just the enough amount of time where I'm kind of getting the Factorio itch again.
Ooh, yeah. We never finished the Space Age.
No, we didn't. We never. I don't think we ever really. We do this every time we play Factorio.
Yeah, I'm kind of. We did do it once. Like, remember it took us, I want to say, like 3 or 4 times playing the base Factorio before we finally like launched Rocket.
Yes. And I think it's because refactoring is in our blood, or at least in mine. We're like, now that every time you play, you get a little further. And every time you get a little further, you're like, okay, I understand how I'm going to make the beginning of the game better. And instead of finishing the game, I just want to make the beginning better.
Just start over.
And I just can't bring myself to like, I think we tried it in our latest like run through, or at least I tried it, where like I tried to restart the novice base to like make it scalable. But like, then I also didn't really wrap my head around quality and how important quality was. And like, every time I play, I want to start over before I finish.
That's the problem, right? You, and it's such a long thing that by the time you get to the end in 200 hours or whatever, there's enough time for it to kind of wrap around on itself.
I just don't like getting to a point where I'm later in the game and I'm waiting for something that like one of the problems we had, one of the problems we started to have is that rockets weren't being launched fast enough on certain planets.
Right.
And you need hundreds of rockets, right? So anytime you're sitting there waiting for a rocket, I was just like, we have to rebuild this whole base. We have to start over. We have to tear this all out. And we have to rebuild from scratch. And I don't know. I would love to play Factorio again. I'd love to get a little bit further. But to your point, as soon as we get a little further, we're going to get to Aquilo, which is a planet we've never been to, never experienced. And I think it's going to have that same effect where we're just like, I don't know what to do here. We're going to do it like super bad. And then we're going to be able to figure it out, like understand what we have to do. And then I'm going to go, we did this all wrong.
We have to start over.
Start over again. Yeah, but I can't just start over one planet. I'm just going to want to start the whole thing over. It's just, I don't know. It's just how I work.
I do wonder, and I know this is not how it works because we did try to do it, but could you just go like way out in the boonies on one of these planets and just start over as if you were starting a brand new game, but with all of the tech tree unlocked, basically? Like bring your pocket drones and
you could, you'd have to
start over.
You'd have to move your landing pad. And I do think that like if you die, the revive is locked, like it's a set point.
Oh, right, because it goes to 0-0 on the world or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But other than that, yes. I mean, if you move your landing pad and do that, yeah, you absolutely could.
I mean, that to me feels like, at least for the level of investment that we have in the save that we had been playing, that feels like the easiest thing to do would be like, don't give up on all of the sort of like helper infrastructure that we have. But if you want to, go start and build stuff out in a new place.
I don't know. Part of the, like, I hate to say like playing Factorio like it's a roguelike. Like it's not a roguelike, but it's, like starting over and doing the tech tree over again, in my mind, at least every 6 months, is part of the fun.
I mean, that is true. You're right. Being able to start from nothing and be like, I don't have drones, I can't do anything. That, I guess, is part of the fun.
Well, I was going to say, except for one thing, is drones. And this second run, or I've been considering this a lot because I'm getting that itch. The two things that I kind of thought in my head is, one, some mods, some quality of life mods, there's one that like allows you to build a little bit further away from your person, right?
Oh,
like basically anything you can see on screen, you can build. You don't have to be within arm's reach, which fine, whatever. I think that's a little nicer. And it's like, it's a good in between where you don't have drones yet, but so you can't like do things on other planets or whatever, but it's also like you don't have to be within 20 feet to build something.
Yeah, I guess.
So that was one. And then I had considered the idea of installing a mod. I think it's called Early Drones, where you get disposable like early drones where you can build them really, really. I think they're 1 iron plate each, but they can only construct or deconstruct one thing.
Okay.
And they kind of like, they go from your engineer, they go from your thing. So they're disposable and it costs something, but they're very cheap. So I had considered that, and you can't like do something on a different planet with them. So I'd considered something like that, which I don't know, we'll see. And the third thing that I've thought about is you and I, when we first did it, we were like, no blueprints. We're not looking at blueprints from the things, but I have found that I find blueprints on Novice where like I know what I'm doing, I just don't know the perfect way to do it, to be more fun in my mind. Like, so I feel like if I did this again, I would say I'm allowed to use other content creators' blueprints just for the one planet, and then try to do it myself on the other planets.
I think I would accept that, although I might also add Gleba to that mix because that place is annoying.
You know, you actually redid it, and we made a really bad mistake on Gleba that we put speed modules in there, which also increased like the burning of the nutrients, which I didn't realize when we first started. Once you fixed everything, Gleba actually ran really well, except for the enemies, and then we turned on peaceful mode, and Gleba actually became pretty pleasant. I would say it was actually kind of cool.
That's true. Once you got rid of the enemies and the yes, and we fixed all of the balance, it was not bad.
Yeah, you rebuilt that planet pretty nicely, and it ended up, like, I understand why people like it now. I still don't know exactly how to deal with the enemies without peaceful mode on, but, like, I get the design behind that planet now.
Uh-huh. I think most of Factorio, to be honest, is better without enemies. Like, for me, like, I know that that's like a key part of the tension of the game or whatever, but like it works. My optimization brain and my like, I just want to like make the factory go, doesn't need to be interrupted by having to deal with enemies. Yeah.
It just, I don't know. They were good, but it got to the point where I just didn't like, I don't know. I guess, I don't have that part of the game optimized well enough to be like, oh yeah, you build a resupply train and it pulls off ammo if it needs it and blah, blah, blah. And you build this. The other thing that you and I don't do like as aggressively as we should is landfill. So like we tend to build around the water features of the world. Mm-hmm. And every content creator I watch prioritizes landfill so much higher, because they just bulldoze the entire world. So I don't know. I kind of like our approach, but at the same time, our approach doesn't allow for the absolute optimization of a defense grid, right? Like a wall around your base.
Oh, sure.
Because it can't just be straight all the way across.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got some terrain to deal with, but I could see the idea of just starting off with a completely barren wasteland of a planet and, you know, flattening everything and molding the world to suit your fancy.
Right.
I am in no place to play a lot of Factorio at the moment, but I'm glad you're interested, and I would like to join along at some point.
We'll see. We'll see if I actually follow through, but I'm getting the itch, and typically the itch about 2, 3, 4 weeks turns into a new save.
Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 151.
Jason, I've been massively, like, just compulsively refreshing all of my news sources for the past 2 weeks, waiting to see what was going to happen with the Switch 2 pre-orders, because we talked about it, I think, on our last episode about the Switch 2, and then they delayed all the pre-orders, and they weren't going to do them, and there was lots of uncertainty about what it was going to cost and when you were going to be able to order it, and were they going to keep the launch in North America, which they said they were going to, but like, who knows? And now finally, this past week, Nintendo announced what they're going to do with the Switch 2.
I'm very surprised with the news that came out.
Yeah, so to catch people up, they announced that they're keeping the price, what they said it was, which is $450 for the console, $500 for the console plus the Mario Kart game. But they're going to increase the price of accessories by $5 or $10 for most of the accessories.
Yeah, which is not wild. It's 10 to 15%. I think the one that really caught me was it Joy-Cons? Like a second set of Joy-Cons cost $95 now. Did I read that right?
Yeah, it's $95 up from $90. So it's not like it went up by a lot percentage wise.
No, they're just expensive to begin with.
Even the Switch 1 Joy-Cons were quite expensive. I think they were $80 or $85 or something for a pair. Like, I don't really understand why they're so expensive, but if you wanted to buy all of the pieces, like a set of Joy-Con and like a dock, right, like to go with your Switch 1 console, I think you ended up paying like, I don't know, 2/3 or 3/4 of the price of the Switch itself, which comes with all that stuff in the box. I don't know what is going on with the pricing there.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised with the price of the Joy-Cons, just in general, like before the increase, even after. They're two fully functional controllers. One Xbox controller is $60. Just a regular one is $60. Maybe they're cheaper, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, $50 for a controller. You get two of them. So, I mean, they're small, sure, but they've got full gyro sensors. They've got buttons and a joystick. They've got a mouse sensor now. So I was like, all right, I mean, it still seems expensive, but at least I understand maybe why.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of technology packed into it. And I think that's what people are coming to realize when they talk about the Switch 2 itself as well, is like there's a lot of stuff that you're getting for the money, even though it's expensive. Like it's, $450 up from $300 for the Switch 1. But like there's a lot of stuff packed in there. And the more that kind of people are thinking about it and rationalizing it and whatever, they're kind of coming into the realization that like, okay, this is fine.
As an aside, do you get a dock when you buy a Switch 2?
Oh, yeah.
Is that a separate accessory?
No. It comes with.
Okay.
But it's $120 or whatever to get a second one if you want it from like an official one.
But it's got a fan, Chris.
Well, that's true. I actually have several off-brand Switch docks, like portable or travel or smaller ones. That all work with my Switch 1, and I'm wondering if they're going to do something with the Switch 2 where it's like, sure, it can output 4K upscaled or whatever when you're docked with the official dock, but maybe if you don't have some identification bit or something that the official dock has, then you can only go 1080p or something, which I would be okay with. Like that'd be fine if I'm like traveling to a hotel or something and I'm taking my little like tiny dock and like it can only work at 1080. Like chances are that TV is only 1080 anyway. So I'd be okay with that.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm really surprised that the price of the console or the price of the console bundle did not go up. I expected it to go up 10% or so. 10% of $500 is another $50 on top of it, but they didn't do that. So maybe they're going with the loss leader kind of approach where they're like, all right, console won't make money, but all the accessories in the games will. I don't know. But with that, you and I kind of talked about it last time that, we weren't going to buy it if the price skyrocketed or got up in the $700, $800 range. But at $500, I'm ready to go. Like I'm going to try to get this, I guess as people are hearing this tonight.
Yeah, it should be today. It should have already come out by the time this episode comes out. The pre-orders go live in North America on April 24th, which is Thursday. Some of them are going live at midnight. Some of them, I think GameStop is doing theirs sometime in the daytime, like 10 a.m. or something like that, Eastern. But I think like Walmart, Target, Best Buy are all doing midnight pre-order launches. So I think I'm going to try and stay up and get one. But we'll see. Okay.
I'm going to try. I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't. How's that?
I'm going to attempt. I'm not going to like freak out all day, but I think I'm going to, in that first hour or whatever, or maybe when I wake up in the morning, I will try and see if I can get one. And if I can't, then that's fine. I'm still on the Nintendo list. so I might still get an email from them. But Nintendo is not guaranteeing launch day delivery. Like, they'll do their best, but they're not guaranteeing it, which is, again, fine. But I do have a trip coming up, I think the week after the official launch date. So I would love to have a Switch 2 in hand before I went on that trip.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So I'm going to do what I can to get one around launch time. It's funny. I always remember the time when the Wii U came out, and I didn't pre-order a Wii U, and it was like, whatever. I don't really care. I didn't have a Wii. Like, I'll be fine. And then the Wii U came out, and I got like a massive FOMO. And the weekend that the Wii U was released, because it came out on a Friday, because Nintendo, the weekend that it was released, I remember going to a couple of different Target stores, and I think I got it from a kind of far away Target on like the Sunday after it came out on Friday. But I did get it over launch weekend. So I'm sure it won't be that easy on a Switch 2, but I always think of that as sometimes that kind of stuff is available.
Do we know if there's any cosmetic decisions on the Switch 2? Like, on the Switch 1, weren't there like the options on what color Joy-Cons you wanted?
Not initially. They had the red and blue was later. I believe they only came in gray. Or maybe it was a choice between gray or red and blue when it first came out.
That's what I thought it was, but I don't know if that was available on release day.
That's what I think. It might have only been one choice, and I don't remember which choice it was. It might have been only red and blue on launch day, and then they added the gray. I know I had a gray one. That's what I remember.
I have a gray one as well.
But I do like that the Switch 2, they are gray to begin with, and then they just have some color on the inside, so it doesn't look so much like a toy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm kind of over it. Like, that's fine. But I'm sure that they will come out with a lot of different colored Joy-Con 2s, because that's what they do. Okay.
Well, we'll update everyone. I'm hoping to get one, but I'm not going to stress about it. I'm just going to try as soon as I can to have one. And when it happens, it happens.
That's healthy. That's good. I have been playing a new game that just came out almost exclusively for the past 2 weeks or so, and it is great, and I want to tell you about it because everyone else is talking about it, and it is called Blue Prince.
Can you please spell this for our audience? Because I've heard this game be talked about on like 3 different podcasts, and every time I'm like, blueprints, like an architectural diagram, or like I never, until you sent me a link or something, I was like, oh, that's how it's spelled. That's what you're saying.
It's really funny because, okay, so I'll spell it first and then I'll tell you the anecdote. So it's spelled blue, B-L-U-E, right? Like the color. And then Prince, P-R-I-N-C-E, like royalty, like a prince, the son of a king.
Thank you.
Yes. So the game is called Blue Prince. And it's funny because I see people online and like just in text, like on Reddit or on Discord or something, and they have come at it from the other side where all they've ever seen is the way that it's spelled. And so then they finally hear somebody say it out loud and then they go, oh, blueprints, like blueprints. Got it. Oh yeah. Haha. That's funny. What a pun. And so like they don't get it, which is funny because the whole game is about blueprints, like the architectural diagrams. It's not as much about royalty, at least not overtly. So like, it's funny to me that people don't get the kind of the homonym and the double meaning there until they see somebody say it out loud, because it would seem like it would be pretty obvious based on the theming of this game that that's what they meant.
Now you have me questioning if Blue Prince is a part of this game at all. Like, is the story about a blue prince and then the mechanic blueprints?
I actually can't tell you one way or the other because I don't know. As far as I can tell, it's mostly about blueprints, the drawings, not about the blueprints, the person.
This is terrible.
Yeah, who's on first? I don't know. But anyway, we'll stop worrying about that too much. I'm not really going to refer to the Blue Prince Monarch anymore because, again, I don't really have anything else to say about it. But the blueprints, the paper, the architectural diagrams, they are very cool in this game. So I have played, I don't know, many, many hours, maybe like 20 hours of this game or so at this point. And I'm on day 30-ish, I don't know, day 27 or something like that. Because the game is broken up into days. It is a rogue-lite puzzle game, I guess I'll say, in terms of classifying it as a genre. It's a little bit of a walking simulator, a little bit of a puzzle game. There's no enemies. There's no like fighting at all. It's all just kind of walking and clicking and thinking, and no jump scares.
Oh, is there a meta currency?
There is not really a meta currency, but there are a few meta things. Like there's the concept of permanent unlocks, which are meta to the runs.
All right. I didn't know there were permanent unlocks.
Yeah, and that's something I don't know. It takes a little bit to get to the first one of those and to figure it out, but like they do exist.
Okay. All right. So it is a light. All right. Because I was going to argue there for a second that this is the closest thing to a rogue like that I've seen in a long time, where you don't necessarily get anything from run to run other than knowledge, but it sounds like there is a little bit more. This goes to say, like, you have showed me this game, I have seen this game, but I'm actually trying to stay away from it. Not watching any streamers, not watching you play too much of it, because it sounds like a lot of the charm of this game is discovering things. And so I've tried to stay away from it because I'm not playing it and I don't want anything kind of spoiled.
Yeah, I mean, you know how we talk every time that there's a little sale on Outer Wilds? You're like, oh man, Outer Wilds is on sale. Maybe I should buy it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you're going to play it, 2-hour rule, go for it. And then you never buy it because you're not going to play it right away. This is that kind of game. But I actually, from the people who have played both, I think they like Blueprints more than Outer Wilds, at least in the current moment. Because Blueprints is not, there's no time element to it. Like, it's very open-ended. You can take as much time as you need to think about the puzzles and like solve stuff. And it's more layered, I think, than Outer Wilds is to some degree. And also, I'll just say, Blueprints is on Game Pass.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't even have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Blueprints, you already have it. It's on Game Pass.
Okay, I might have to try it now.
I went ahead and bought it because I don't have Game Pass right now, and this is the kind of game that I wanted to support anyway. But yes, for you, I would say this is a perfect Game Pass game.
Well, and I have the perfect way to play a Game Pass game now.
Oh, that's right.
We'll talk about
that later. Yes. Oh, it's so good on handheld. I've been playing mostly on Steam Deck, which is cool. Other than it does force you into a kind of a low resolution, at 1280 by 720 on the Steam Deck or 1280 by 800, which is kind of a problem in some cases because there are a few things where there's like small text and stuff that like doesn't come through perfectly well on the kind of low res display. So that's been a little bit annoying in some cases, but mostly it's been fine.
Okay, so what else can you tell me or the listeners about this game that won't spoil it?
Okay, so basically the premise of the game is that you are a middle school age boy who has just had their grandfather, their great uncle, some relation, which I really should know because it's all over the place, has died. And in his will, he basically said, hey, Simon, which is your character, if you can find room 46 in my mansion, you can have the mansion. Which, the more that I'm saying this out loud and thinking about it, what the heck does a middle schooler have to do with a massive estate mansion thing? Like, why would they want that? I don't know. But anyway, that's the premise of the game, and it's all set up in like the opening cutscene, so that's not a spoiler. But the gimmick of this is that the game is laid out on a 5 wide by 9 tall grid that is empty when you start. So like you start off in the entranceway, and you basically have 3 doors where you can choose where to go. And when you open a door, everywhere in this mansion, when you open a door, it presents you with 3 different blueprints of the room that door could open into. And it's not locked in until you, the player, pick which room you want to walk into. So that's where it kind of gets the roguelite element to it, where there's RNG and randomness of like, oh, do you want to have a, parlor, or do you want to have a nook, or do you want to have a hallway, or do you want to have a whatever? These are different rooms that you can get. And you learn over time like what the rooms do and what they're good for, and you can kind of breeze through them after you've done it a few times. But sometimes they have item pickups, and sometimes they have like hidden things or whatever. Sometimes there's little games inside of them. I showed you one of the games that was pretty early on. that was kind of like a math puzzle, which was kind of cool. But yeah, it's basically randomized every time you play. So you can, and the rooms have different doors, right? So you imagine north, south, east, west doors on a room on a grid, and not all rooms have all doors. So you can kind of get yourself into a dead end situation where you can't proceed. And at that point you have to call it a day. They say, like, that's the menu option, is like you call it a day, and that will essentially end your run for that day, reset the whole house, and you come back the next day and the whole house is empty and you have to start over and draft new rooms.
You've been playing for 20 hours or so. How close, do you feel the story developing? How close do you feel you are to rolling credits?
I think I am, I don't know, another couple hours, maybe 5-10 hours from rolling credits if I get lucky. So that's one of the other challenges, is like you kind of need a certain set of rooms in a single run, I think, and this is all kind of conjecture on my part, but based on what I know, I think you need a certain set of rooms on a given day in order to successfully roll credits. So I haven't done that yet, but I have some ideas on what I need to do to get that to happen.
Okay.
I had a run I played earlier today or yesterday where I said there's 5 rooms across and 9 rooms tall. Like, that's the house. I think I got like 2 rows tall before I had exhausted all of the dead ends and rooms to go nowhere, where I just had to call it a day after like drafting 8 rooms or something. It was just like very unlucky. But that happens sometimes in these kinds of games. And if you know that, and you can just be like, okay, well, no love lost here, I'll just start over and hopefully get a better set of rooms next time, then that's fine. But I know that some people find that frustrating.
The other thing that I've heard about this game, again, I haven't played it, but the other thing I've heard is that there is so much more to do even after you roll credits.
I've heard that too. And I haven't rolled credits yet, so I don't know how much stuff is, kind of in scope and out of scope for the rolling credits part of it. But I do think there is more to do, and I've heard of people playing a lot more after they roll credits. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, to see what it is, like to see is it like another layer of puzzle? Is it like another, like, I don't know, a second story to the house or something? I mean, I don't know. I've not, everybody's being really nice. Like, the internet is actually being really, nice about not spoiling this for everyone. Like, they're very spoiler tag heavy, and like everybody's being very courteous, I would say, in that way, which has been really nice. The one thing I will say about Blueprints is that you do need to give it some time. Like, you need to give it like a little bit of like, if you don't see progress on the first like 5 days that you play, that's okay. You always want to basically keep trying and finding rooms you've never seen before, because that's how you make progress. That's how you learn. That's how you find new information. There are a few things that I think are really interesting where the game will basically nudge you into solutions for puzzles that you may have seen. The times that I found the rooms that had hints for answers to the puzzles, I had already solved those puzzles. But it was nice to see that there was like something in the game that was like, oh, hey, here's, a in story, like a diegetic way to tell you how to solve something else in another room without having to go look up a guide. Because obviously if you go look stuff up, you're likely to get spoiled for something completely unrelated, because it's hard to search for like, this is the thing I need. You'll see like, okay, here's the full walkthrough, and it'll tell you something that you don't want to know yet. So that I think is really nice, but you do have to kind of stick with it a little bit. It's not one of those like you got to play for 10 hours for it to get good. It's like you just have to kind of keep an open mind and be willing to, I guess I would say, like, find a new room at the expense of getting further in the house, because like, your first dozen or 2 runs, you're not going to get to the end. Like, that's just a fact. And it's just very cool that they build all this stuff in. And I found new room types that I didn't even think were possible, which has been really fun. And I'm still finding different and new rooms that are things I hadn't seen. So I would say just keep with it, if you at all enjoy it.
How long does a run take?
A run takes about anywhere between, I would say, 20 minutes and an hour, depending on how well you do.
Okay.
So it's kind of like Hades in that way, where like it can be quick or it can be long. I would say early on, it probably takes even less than that. If you are seeing things you've seen before, because you can kind of, like I said, like zoom through them a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
It's if you're like seeing new stuff and like taking notes, like the game actually encourages you to like have a notebook and like write stuff down. Like I actually have my iPad with my Apple Pencil and I'm just like taking some notes on some things, which is nice because then you can like take a picture of the screen if you need to, which is handy in certain cases.
Okay. All right. Since it's on Game Pass, I should try this.
You should give it a shot. It's definitely worth free. It's also worth $30, which is what it costs. It's not an expensive game. So highly recommend Blueprints if anybody likes that kind of game. It definitely is in the vein of Myst and things like that, except that it's not as obtuse, I would say, as things like Myst are sometimes.
Okay, Chris, we've got to talk about what happened this past weekend, 2 weekends ago.
What happened? You make it sound so ominous.
It does. It sounds ominous. But very rarely do people have LAN parties anymore.
That's true. Yes.
But that's basically what happened here without playing anything on the local network.
Yeah, so LAN parties have actually really been decimated, I would say.
Decimated.
By the rise in like Steam and online play and all of these things. Like it's very unusual for people to be able to spin up a local server. Everything's like, oh, come through our central matchmaking server. Like, you know, you can't play like Overwatch on a LAN. Like you always have to play it through the Blizzard servers. And
we played a game that we had a private server just for us that we very easily, I guess we could have spun it up on the local network, but we didn't.
Yeah, somebody actually paid money for a cloud server outside of the house that we were in to serve this game to people who were exclusively inside said house.
We could have typed a local IP address, but we didn't.
Yeah, we did not.
Anyway, we're saying all of this because we had a really fun weekend with a bunch of people that got all together to play games and some other things for the weekend. We did get outside for a little bit. We did touch grass. But we spent most of the weekend playing Enshrouded.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember if we've mentioned Enshrouded before, I think, but we never really got into it. Enshrouded is a survival crafting game, I guess you would call it. Is that the right genre?
I would call it a survival crafting RPG.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Because and that's maybe like a little bit of a spoiler on how the whole game works and maybe what we're going to talk about for a couple of minutes. But there are definitely there's definitely a really heavy reliance on go do quests. You have a character sheet. There's a storyline, like a lot of things that you would consider almost like part of a Skyrim quest line, kind of thing. But there's also the survival crafting, supplies, resource management element of it as well. And like base building and whatnot. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to place for me.
Yeah, it reminded me, now that I'm thinking back on it, it reminded me a lot of Palworld actually. In terms of the kinds of like leveling up that you would do and that kind of thing. And that there were some general quest type things that you had to do. But the thing that was different about this one, about Enshrouded, is that in Enshrouded you have like server wide progress on the quest lines, which was kind of weird because our group got a little bit fragmented, where you and I were a little behind kind of the other four people that were playing. So we were kind of playing catch up a little bit while they were off going and doing something else. And that was, I didn't love that, but I did actually, I guess, like that there was sort of a way to catch up, but also we were separated from the people that we were playing with.
Well, it was server wide progress while you were logged in. So like I could go do a quest by myself while everyone was logged in, and everyone would get credit for that quest if they were logged in. So when you and I came a little late and got into it a little late, there were a bunch of quests that we had to catch up on that other people had done, and it was easier for us to do because fast travel points were open and kind of everyone knew what to do already, and like some of the areas that we had to go to were already unlocked. But we still had to go do the quest because we weren't logged in when they completed them.
Right.
So it was this weird in between, which you're right. I'm not really super sure how I feel about. I think Ark Survival Evolved does it a little differently, where like if you log in and join a team that has already done a bunch of stuff, you just instantly get granted a bunch of experience and like basically are up to their level, like matching whatever they've done, which I kind of like. But I also like the progress that you and I had to go through was a little bit of a learning experience.
That's true. It did walk you through the tutorial missions. Like it made you do the stuff to like learn about the shroud and do all that stuff. I guess that's nice. It was a little bit frustrating though, because we were trying to catch up with people. And so I felt like I was rushing through. I didn't care at all about the story in this particular case because it was a limited time thing. We kind of only had the weekend and I was just like, I just want to get back to the people. Like, come on. And so I didn't really get a lot out of the story, which I'm sure is great or at least passable. But I wasn't paying attention to it when we were playing.
I don't know that we would have paid attention to the story because even when we caught up, I don't know that I was paying attention to the story that much.
No, it was pretty thin. At least it seemed to be when I was skimming it.
Well, and when there's, 8 other people kind of waiting on you to do something, you're just like, all right, skip.
Right, exactly.
So
yeah.
I don't know that we would have gotten a good story experience even if we were caught up. But there's a story there, and maybe this is my first chance of saying, and I'm probably saying a couple more times. I'm interested in going back and like doing it again. Not to say I want to do exactly what I did with Factorio, but like I would love to attack this as a smaller group in a less time boxed session, right? Like we only had the weekend, right? We really wanted to play a lot that weekend. And I think we did exactly what we should have for that weekend. But now that I've experienced Enshrouded, I would love to go back with a less frantic kind of attack on it and play it again to try to experience a little bit more of that story, but also like everything else it has to offer.
Yeah. I think that would be worthwhile to try with a group of like 4, I would say. Maybe.
Right. The game is definitely early access, though.
Oh my gosh, yes.
It's so funny that you wrote this down here in the show notes because I was going to also write that exact phrase in the show notes.
Yeah, it absolutely feels early access. I mean, we had a few little bugs that was like some weird UI stuff with like quests getting completed and uncompleted like instantaneously and flickering, and there was some weirdness with some progress stuff, and like you can, I don't know, there's problems with like falling off the world, well, not really off the world, but falling off of a cliff, and like your items get stuck in a place where you can't reach them, which is like not really an early access thing, but it's kind of a like there's no affordances for that because they haven't gotten to that quality of life pass yet, kind of a thing. Which, is if you've played any of these other survival crafting games, which are all early access almost all the time, then you know exactly what this game is. And then if you like that, that's that. And if you don't like it, then don't play this game because it's one of those.
It was definitely playable, though. I mean,
very playable. Yes.
Yeah. And it was good. I would say not just the bugs or some of the quality of life things, but even like just some of the progression or some of the ways that things are explained or like some of the text, like that it all needs a pass, right? It all just needs a quick pass. But I imagine things are changing so fast right now with the game. Like maybe it used to be this way and now it's this way. And obviously they just wrote something up to put it in there. But like, I just remember like some of the base stuff or like, talk about early access, like just base organization and like things that are available. Every survival crafting game that I know goes through a phase where it doesn't have signs or some way to label parts of your base. And then they get them later. Like every survival crafting game. I don't know why they forget to implement signs when they do their first release. But I need signs, and every survival crafting game I've ever played eventually gets signs. So, that's just one of the things that I feel is missing here. And they say it's on their roadmap. Like they say it's coming. So, those are the kinds of things that kind of, I don't know, poke me a little bit when I'm playing the game. I'm just like, okay, I get that you have some chests that are really cool that you can craft straight out of, but like, I still need signs so I can label stuff.
Right. I mean, you always need them. Even like they could put like labels on boxes. Like they don't necessarily have to be
sure.
a dedicated sign object. You just need a way to have like a note section on anything that you leave persistently in the world when you're playing a game with other people who might not be there at the moment that you set the stuff up. So because then you end up being like, okay, well, it's the far left one. Okay, third from the left is the weapon box, and don't put the grass in the weapon box because it's going to mess the whole system up. And then someone inevitably does do that, and they mess up all your system, and then you spend all this time shuttling things between boxes and all this stuff. It's very annoying. This one did do something interesting with the boxes. They had like magic boxes where you could, if you put stuff in the magic boxes, then anybody could use them to craft stuff without having to take the stuff out of the boxes, which is pretty handy.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like the Guild Wars 2 crafting bank or the World of Warcraft, reagent bags or bank, where you can craft stuff. Like it's very MMO like, where you can craft out of that bank, but you don't necessarily have to have it with you.
Right. I mean, that makes sense. That is a good quality of life option.
Yes.
So that you don't end up having to be like, oh, let me go over to this box and get, 3 string out of there and then bring it over here and make my whatever I have to make. So that was
let me tell
nice.
you a quality of life thing that's just wild to me. So that's for crafting, right? But because this is kind of RPG like, and you go and you have to go rescue the blacksmith, right? That's one of the things that you have to do at some point. And there's lots of other things like that. But then the blacksmith becomes a person in your town. You're basically building, you're survival crafting a town or some kind of settlement with the blacksmith and everyone else that you'll be eventually inviting to your town. When you're trying to buy or craft something from the blacksmith, it doesn't use the magic boxes.
Oh, really?
When you're trying to do something in the furnace, which is it's not a craft, it's an item processing place, it doesn't pull from the magic boxes. So like there's these little things. No.
Yeah.
No.
No, it totally does, because otherwise you would set your furnace, you'd say like, okay, turn all my metal into metal plates or whatever. And then it would just suck down all the metal into metal plates. And
you have
there
to
are
still
some
queue up the work.
Well, but you can say keep going, can't you? You can say like do this infinitely as long as you have the raw material.
If you could, I didn't see the button. I saw +1 and +10, and you could queue up to like as many as you wanted. But I didn't see the button to process everything.
I just think
maybe you're right,
because there were some recipes that needed the non-refined item. I think you could get yourself into a bit of a situation if you just like
then
blindly
build the button that says transfer, right? Like build the button that says work. Take from my magic boxes and put it in this thing.
I accept that as a compromise, but I think some design would have to happen to that feature.
I see what you're saying there, but I would say in general it was fine. We got over it. We started to understand what could and couldn't be pulled from the boxes. But the whole using people you rescue as crafting benches definitely took me some time to get used to. Because, like, if you needed nails, for instance, right? Like, you needed nails for certain things. I had to go talk to the blacksmith, which then I could... It didn't feel like crafting. It felt like I was purchasing nails. Like I was giving him metal scrap and I was getting nails back. I was like bartering for nails. But you always used raw materials. You didn't barter. You didn't trade. You gave him raw materials and he gave you the processed material back, right? And so you're basically using people as crafting benches. And that's very, it's kind of MMO-like. It's kind of, a little RPG-like, but at this, like, because they want you to go get the nails from the blacksmith because blacksmith makes nails. But I was just like, it doesn't feel, it feels a little weird, right? Using a person as a crafting bench. I would have much preferred like, hey, you rescued the blacksmith and he taught you how to make nails. Like, I don't know. And now you can use, you can craft nails at your regular crafting bench. I feel like that was kind of maybe something more of what I was looking for. I did eventually get used to it. But you had to, like, a lot of times look up like, oh, who do I have to buy this from?
I think that there are a few quality of life things that they could have added to make that easier, like putting little MMO icons over their head for what they were, right? If the blacksmith had a little anvil over his head, you'd know he was the blacksmith. Like that would be
remember what he
easy
looked like.
enough. But also the other thing you could do is, somehow like build a little prison for these people so that they would stay put, because the blacksmith, you could tell them like, hey, your range is 10 yards, but you put them in a house and the little house was like smaller than 10 yards. So the blacksmith could walk outside of his house and be like in the backyard of the house. And you would have to like, you go in the room where he's supposed to be and he's not there. So now you have to go chase the blacksmith to get your nails. Like you needed like a leash option. Like you could just like put him in one place and like have them all sit still. And that was
or hear
not
me
an
out.
option.
Just use the blacksmith crafting table. Like we had to build stuff, right? Like why can't I just use that? And then, from an RPG element, he kind of, when someone starts using the bench that he's supposedly enabling to be used, he comes walking in, right? Like he gets leashed back to the bench.
Sure.
And he's like, oh, let me help you with that, right? Like I didn't like that I had to go find a person who, to your point, could wander around. I get why they do that. I get why they have them wander around, because it did make the area we were building feel a little bit more lifelike. I actually kind of liked that, how you went and rescued someone and then you kind of built them a house and then you had to build them a bed and you basically gave them a place to live and sleep. And then they wandered around that village. I really liked that. But what I didn't like is that I had to talk to that person to go craft nails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if you could have said, like, as long as that person is within the radius of your town, you can just access them by menu, I think that would have been a much nicer experience.
Yes.
And maybe you have to, like, go talk to them for, I don't know, you could say, like, oh, you have to go physically speak to them to get upgrades or something. Like, fine.
Or quest. I mean, a lot of them had quests.
No,
right?
that's true.
You had
Quests
to,
are good.
progress quests by talking to them, and so there was some dialogue and back and forth, and that's fine. But like from the crafting survival element, I was just like, no, I'm good. I don't want to talk to the guy without a shirt on ever again. In any case, we had a lot of fun. I really liked it. There are more elements of the game I wish I understood more. Again, I think you and I kind of rushed through a lot of it, but I can really see how people enjoy this game. I guess I go back and forth, and I wonder what your opinion is. Should we wait until it's released, or should we take another stab at it, sooner?
I think I would give them a couple more patches. I don't know what their release cadence is, but like I would give it 6 months and see, even if it's still in early access, and like maybe try it again.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that.
You've got Factoria to play, so like there's plenty of time.
And Pal World.
And Pal World we haven't played Pal World in like a year, and they have gone, I think, 1.0 since then. Even like they actually have done a ton of stuff in Pal World that we should probably take another look at.
I would totally do Pal World while we're waiting for Enshrouded to go 1.0.
It's just the big treadmill of survival crafting games continues.
Honestly, yes, it is. Okay, well, I have to talk about how I played Enshrouded all weekend, because I did fly from Ohio to Florida to go to this gathering, and I didn't have the distinct privilege, Chris, of bringing my entire 4090 tower with me. Mine 5080, but you brought your whole 4090 with you, and it was glorious, and I loved that you could do that, but I couldn't.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you all did make fun of me because my case was massive, because the 4090 is humongous. So I don't know. My 4090 was actually, I think, larger than the device that you played the entire weekend. Like the graphics card. We should have done that comparison, but I don't think we had to, because I think you're right. Yeah, no, the GPU is humongous. But anyway, that's not the point. I knew going into this weekend that Enshrouded was going to be kind of the game that we played. We'd been talking about it ahead of time. Wasn't 100% sure, but I knew that it was at least going to be something that we were. It ended up being like the primary game all weekend, so I'm glad I did this and planned for it. But I saw that according to Steam, like the actual page, Enshrouded is not Steam Deck supported. Now, if you go to ProtonDB, which is a great resource, by the way, ProtonDB like essentially ranks all of the games that can ever be played on a Steam Deck and says, can they be played? Are they unofficially supported and playable, or are they truly, what if they aren't like perfect, what tweaks can you make to make them better? Like there's like comments and suggestions on ProtonDB.
Proton.db says that Enshrouded is playable and suggests a couple of tweaks. But I said, you know what? This is my chance. I want to try something new. I want to see what else is out there in the handheld world. So I decided that I was going to get a Windows handheld, did some research really fast, ended up wanting to buy the MSI Claw 8 AI Plus, I think is the name of it, but totally sold out or not released yet. I don't know. Couldn't get it anywhere. But I was able to get my hands on, and overnight, a ROG Ally X, an Asus ROG Ally X. So that's the newest one. Very good. I don't have the specs on it. I don't know. We'll put them up, or you can look it up. And it's a Windows handheld, roughly the same size as the Steam Deck, maybe even a little bit smaller, 8-inch screen. And I don't want to kind of spoil it ahead of time, but this thing was great.
Yeah, I sat next to you while you were playing with this thing, and it looked so cool. It was like, I don't know, the gamerification of the Steam Deck. Like, the Steam Deck is very like subtle and understated. This thing was like very RGB, like very like gamery, because it was, you know, ROG, Republic of Gamers, whatever. But also it seemed like it held up and kept up with everything you were asking it to do.
It didn't have a problem at all. Now, I was playing on some lower graphical settings, which are fine, but it was running smooth. I was getting a solid like 45 frames on decently reasonable graphics. I mean, compared to your 4090, which is screaming, but like it was putting out anything you asked it to. But I had literally a device that was smaller than just your graphics card, and I played fine all weekend. Like no problems at all. I would say this thing, I want to review it because I mostly played it essentially as a mobile PC tower. We put power in, and then we put a dongle out so that we could plug in a monitor, and I Bluetooth the mouse and I Bluetooth the keyboard, and I played all weekend like that, and it was excellent. It was so good. I was very, very impressed with it basically being a mobile PC tower that is the size of a Steam Deck. And I had a lot of fun using it. It was so easy and so cool and so good. And it was really nice to have a Windows PC just kind of in my backpack.
Did you have any trouble with the Windows handheld experience? Like, I know you had a couple, like before we got the monitor set up, like you had to use just the handheld to do some stuff, like log into some stuff and whatever. Was that like, I didn't get a good feel for, was that hard or was it okay?
It wasn't a perfect experience. I will say that. Yeah, it didn't impress me. How's that? There were some instances where I had to like type a password or like, log in, and the keyboard was a little finicky, like the on-screen keyboard. Like I would click the text box and the keyboard would open, and then I would go to type and the keyboard would disappear. So like it was a little annoying like that. I got through it. Like I figured it out. Windows is not built for kind of a touchscreen mobile device experience. Like, the taskbar at the bottom is still really small. Like the clock in the bottom right corner is basically you like can't see it at all. So it wasn't great. But like as soon as I booted Steam Big Picture mode, or as soon as there is actually built-in software on the Ally that goes and collects all your games, which is basically Steam Big Picture mode, but also for non-Steam games. So that was nice. Like I could click a button on the physical device itself, and it would bring up the software in the same way that Steam would bring up Steam OS. So that was nice, and I'm glad that was there. There was a button that was essentially an overlay to Windows that was, again, kind of, I think it was Asus software or something, where I could change the power mode. Like, is it turbo? Is it performance? Is it kind of battery saving? I could switch between different settings that had to do with the controller and things like that. So there was good like software on top of Windows, but the Windows experience itself, not perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it looked good once you were pulling up the Asus software. It looked really good, but it's a bummer that the keyboard wasn't consistently good. The Steam has a really nice, the Steam OS has a really nice thing where you can do like a keyboard shortcut with the Steam button, and I think you press X or whatever, and it opens the keyboard, and it's generally pretty good with the Steam keyboard. That is one thing that they've gotten pretty correct, I would say.
Yeah, I was also missing the touchpads a little bit.
Really?
Particularly when I was in Windows mode, because the touchpads on the Steam Deck do give you a pretty good mouse experience when you're required to use the mouse. So I was missing those on occasion when the game wasn't open. But that's about it. I would say, 98% of the time you're going to have a game open with controller support. So it's not a huge deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. However, it just goes to show, like, for someone who's not techie, right? Someone who doesn't want to fiddle with it, an actual like Microsoft Xbox handheld that can play Xbox games, can play Steam games, could have some very general market appeal. I really do think that, like, where it was not running like just straight Windows 11, it's running, some kind of Steam OS or Steam Big Picture kind of piece of software on top of it. I really do think that could sell very well in the market, because it would kind of fill this gap here where, obviously Asus doesn't have any better software to put on it that runs Windows other than Windows 11.
Right.
So they're kind of just getting around it with overlays and additional software. But it would be really cool to have like a really pared down version of Windows 11 that had just enough to run games.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's essentially what SteamOS is, right? I mean, SteamOS is full Linux running underneath, but it has this like mode where it runs the Steam UI.
Right.
And you can drop into desktop mode if you have to, but like when you turn the thing on the first time, you wouldn't even know that it had a desktop mode, because it just goes straight into the nice, like, slick gaming OS, viewpoint.
Right. And I think Microsoft can pull that off, and I think they should. I think they would sell a lot of consoles, handheld devices, if they did something like that.
It's kind of interesting to me that you go to the Microsoft should make a handheld, whereas I go to the, man, I want a Steam Deck 2 and I want it to dual boot Windows. And I also want Microsoft to do better with Windows handheld. But like, this makes me just want them to do a second generation Steam Deck with everything they've learned and everything that's happened in the marketplace in the meantime to just make a better Steam Deck.
I don't think that Steam Deck is ever going to get to the point where they can play Xbox Game Pass games without some kind of either support from Microsoft to build software to do it, even with dual booting, right? Without kind of tinkering, right? I want an experience where I don't have to tinker. And I don't think that Steam is going to get that done for Xbox Game Pass games either without Microsoft's help or without Microsoft doing it.
Sure, but like that would be like, I would probably still be subscribed to Game Pass right now if I could play it on my Steam Deck.
Right, exactly. And I think that you're more likely to see something with a good experience if Microsoft produced the hardware.
Fair, but I still want it to do all my Steam stuff too. So I don't want them to be like, don't do the walled garden thing, people. Like, let me play the libraries from all the different things.
Yes, I mean, I guess that was kind of a given in my state. Like, I assume that. I mean, I shouldn't assume, but
yeah, no, don't
if
assume.
it's running, if it's running in a handheld mode that is theoretically Windows 11 under the hood, like, it should also be able to play Steam games. Yes,
but that's not I mean, like, your Xbox Series X doesn't play Steam games, so they could mess it up.
They could, yes, yeah. But I haven't done it yet. But my new ally here, the Ally X, should play Xbox Game Pass games, no problem. I do have a little bit more time on my Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I will be switching to Xbox Game Pass PC, but so I can try the cloud gaming too on it. But it shouldn't have a problem. Download the Xbox app, install a game just like any other game, push play. Like I'm looking forward to trying it.
You also, just as a suggestion, you also would be able to get the official PS Remote Play PlayStation app, which lets you stream your PS5 to your little handheld thing. And it works
there we go.
very well from my PC with wired network connections on both ends. I don't know how it would work with a handheld with wireless, but that would just be another thing you could play with too.
Yeah, I can play. I wouldn't need a portal to play in my Astrobot in my bed.
Yeah. I don't know. The portal is still such an interesting piece of hardware to me. I'm still not going to buy one.
If the portal was $50, it'd be worth it.
$50 no brainer. $100 I might even buy it. But at what, 150, 200? I think it's 200 or something like that. It's too much.
I think it's 200, yeah. Okay, well, I mean, I guess I came away with this not really knowing what I would think of a non-Steam Deck Steam Deck. I mean, I hate to call it that, but that's the kind of device we're talking about here. But the Asus ROG Ally X turned out to be a really solid hit for me. I'm really glad I got it. I was actually planning on buying it, taking it with me, using it, and then determining whether I wanted to return it or not. And I have decided that I'm going to keep it. So that's,
wow.
I mean, it was expensive.
High praise.
It was $700. I think $700, maybe $800. I don't know. And so I really went back and forth on whether I really needed to keep it. But I think at the end, like, it did such a good job at what I asked it to do on that trip. I'm going to keep it.
Are you going to keep your Steam Deck also?
I should probably look at selling the Steam Deck, shouldn't I?
I don't know.
think I could get very much for it because it's an original non-OLED. I could probably get like $400 for it.
You think? That's optimistic.
I don't know. I could try.
Well, if you manage to do that,
but it brings up a good point. I should maybe do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't need too many Windows or like PC gaming handhelds in your life, I don't think, since they're all kind of incremental. It's not like it's a Switch versus Switch 2 kind of thing. Well, even Switch and Switch 2 is whatever, but like it's not a Game Boy versus DS kind of thing.
Yeah, and I didn't touch the Steam Deck once on this trip, even though I brought it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you brought 2 gaming handhelds. Well, let us know if you sell your Steam Deck. I'll be curious to see.
I'll let you know. Today is Thursday. If you're listening to this on release day, hopefully Chris and I maybe have a pre-order of a Switch 2 by now. But if you get one, let us know. And let us know where you got it. I'm going to try from Best Buy. That's my goal, is to try from Best Buy. I don't know where you're going to try first, Chris, but that tends to be where I go. So
yeah, I'll probably try Best Buy first and then Target second. I think I don't really care about Walmart, and I think Amazon's going to do it too. But
maybe Amazon. I could try Amazon.
Best Buy is going to do for the first time in a very, very long time. Best Buy is going to do midnight release, which seems like a really fun thing to do, just kind of for the nostalgia factor. But I don't know if I'm
like
willing
on
to do that.
actual release day.
Like on June 5th, they're going to open the store at midnight and have people, with pre-orders come and get them physically on release day.
Isn't June 5th a Friday?
I'm sure it's Nintendo. It probably is.
June 5th is a Thursday. All right. Well, I'm not standing outside until midnight on a Thursday because I work on Friday. But if it was a Friday, I would have maybe considered doing it.
I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy enough to do it. I might just do it. I have a Best Buy that's very close to my house, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah. Okay, well, if anyone out there ends up getting a pre-order or has any stories about pre-orders, let us know. You can get in contact with us by joining our Discord, which you can get to at discord.pnapodcast.com.
If you want to find our older episodes or read our show notes, you can visit our website at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com. If you're enjoying the show, we would love if you could share it with some others that might enjoy it as well. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. We've been spelling the name of our website since the beginning here, and it's just like Blueprints, right? It's you don't know what it is when you say it out loud. It's P&A podcast, like what is that? And it's P, the letter N, the letter A, and like Blueprints, like BLUE, BRINCE. It's full circle.
Yeah, we're just smart enough to spell it every time.
That's true. That's true.
We've always said that if we're ever going to get shirts for P&A Podcast, that the back is going to say that's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com.
That's
all
true.
spelled out.
Yes, we will.
Because that's exactly what should be on the back of the shirt. Do you think we ever get new, like, we don't have very many listeners, but do you ever think we get a new listener that's just like, what is P&A like? Oh no, I guess the actual name of the podcast is Pride and Accomplishment on podcast listeners, isn't it?
Yeah. It's listed as Pride and Accomplishment. So it's not at least
so they're not gonna
that confusing.
Forget what it is.
Yeah.
And we tend to say it like every third episode.
That is true. I don't know if we ever said why we have P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com, like as our URL, because if you do it the other way, if you spell out PANDA, then you end up with Panda Podcast, and that's just not what we are. So
it's just not going to be what it is. Yeah.
It's gotta be P, the letter N, the letter A.
I was a little hesitant to it at first because I don't really like N as and. It's just not. I don't really care for it.
I'm not a big fan either, but it's part of our brand.
It's
now.
worked out in the
to.
end. P&A just rolls off the tongue. It's just so good.